Well, we're up in the northwest climbing for a week and expecting sun-drenched rock in July, and the reality unfortunately was very different. We spent an evening at Reef in gorgeous sunny weather, and the following day the forecast was looking really good, so we decided to head to Stack Polly on the west face to do one of the multi-pitch routes there. And day started off fine, no indication of poor weather coming in, and left the car park, walked up towards the base of the crag, and clouds started building in, sort of quite cumulus type clouds, and just as we were approaching the bottom of the route where we were going to get kitted out, the clag came down and it started raining. So we thought, oh, typical, made all the effort to get here and we're not going to get a route in. So we scrambled round and went up to the summit, because the friend I was with, Duncan, hadn't actually been onto the top of Stack Polly, and it's a really impressive peak. So we got to the top and it cleared and the rain stopped and the rock started drying, so we thought, well, we're here, we may as well give it another shot. So we scrambled back down and got down to the base of the route, and we tied our dog up Millie next to the rucksacks, got kitted out, and set off on a 3-pitch route up the western nose of Stack Polly. First 2 pitches went fine, and nice dry rock, nice weather, and we were wearing literally what I'm wearing now, just a thermal vest. Everything else had been left in the rucksacks at the bottom, and set off leading on pitch 3, which was the final pitch up the sort of nose. It's quite a prominent nose at the top of Stack Polly, and all of a sudden the sky turned black, the heavens opened, it was torrential rain, which resulted in just water pouring down the rock face, and also it turned into a hailstorm, so there were massive, like centimetre size hail falling down on us, and thunder and lightning started. And by this time I'd actually belayed to the rock and was bringing Duncan up towards me, and all of a sudden became very aware that this thunder and lightning was really close to us, and then totally unexpected, a flash of lightning hit the rock about 15 metres above me, so just below the summit, and if I'd continued climbing it would have been just where we'd have actually been. And it kind of hit it and sparked off with all this crackling noise, and it's extremely frightening because we were very exposed, we had metal bits dangling from us, we were soaked and shivering by this stage with the water and the temperature drop, and really in a situation where we couldn't really help ourselves. You know, we were in the hands of the gods. So we started abseiling down, and it's quite complicated terrain, quite broken ground in places, so there's quite a high chance of getting ropes snagged. But we did 3 multi-pitch abseils to get back down, and by this stage I thought my dog Millie might have been heading off to Loch Inver, dragging rucksacks behind her and being extremely scared, but fortunately she was still sat there, and we were extremely relieved to get down and in one piece. And it's a reflection that, you know, extreme weather can hit at any time of the year, and it certainly made me have a look and do a bit of research into lightning in the mountains. And ironically enough, attaching to a rope and abseiling off is probably not the best practice, because the rope will act as a lightning conductor, but in fact in the situation we were in, there wasn't a lot we could do to protect ourselves.
What have you learned from the experience?
Well, what have I learned? Looking at the forecast in more detail would be good, but on saying that, looking at the forecast on hindsight after the incident didn't indicate thunder and lightning on that day, and it was extremely localised. Later on we picked up a hitchhiker, and he'd been on Sullivan, which is just to the north of Stack Polly, and he'd seen all this kicking off on Stack Polly, and he'd been just in dry, you know, reasonable weather, so it was really sort of localised outbursts, and we were extremely unfortunate. And so whether I could have done anything differently on hindsight, I don't really know, other than not try and go climbing in the first place.
What's the best advice to offer people when they're going out and there's a chance of a thunder and lightning storm?
I think to look carefully at the forecast, and if there is any risk of thunder and lightning, then maybe pick a location where you're not quite as exposed. Stack Polly is this huge rock of nose sticking up, you know, in the middle of flatland, so it's going to be a real attraction for lightning. You know, maybe pick somewhere, you know, lower, some sea cliffs for example, to try and sort of eliminate the risk and reduce the amount of risk that you're taking.
And of course lightning strikes can happen anywhere, not only in mountains.
Absolutely, yes. You know, they can happen in big flat places. In fact, a friend of mine was hit by lightning sheltering under a tree on a tennis court when she was a little girl.